Understood. So, for a lot of times when I'm speaking with clients, foundation, roof, HVAC, those are the biggies.
Yeah.
When we're going to a seller saying, hey, these are some defects that we found, you're more inclined to get some response from the seller to say, okay, let's attach a credit to it. In lieu of repair, we can figure out what we can do to get this rectified. What are some things that, buyers should consider when they're looking at that inspection report? And I say that because you're designed to go through the nooks and crannies of the home.
Yeah.
And, working with you, your inspection reports are very detailed, they're thorough, they include video, picture, which is great. It makes it digestible and easy to understand for those who aren't trained specialists or professionals. So, when you're, breaking it down for clients who are asking, is this a big deal or not? How do you help them understand, okay, this is a big deal that needs to be addressed. This is something you could potentially go to the seller about, but if they don't want to rectify it, this is something you can take care of down the road. And then this one as a simple DIY issue. How do you kind of go through that and make them aware?
So I would answer that kind of a multifaceted type answer. One is, we always like having the client there to talk through the report. Me personally, I don't feel like I can give that client the amount of information that I want to give them in that short amount of time. Typically as home inspectors, we have, multiple appointments that day. And then once we're done with those appointments, we have reports to write. So what I like to do is do a Zoom meeting with the client. Set it up, offline, no time constraints. I set it up on their timeline. I make time if it's. I've had people that are overseas. I deal a lot with military, so they're overseas, and I'm up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning doing a Zoom meeting because that's when they're getting off of work. Because then we can sit down in a controlled environment and really go through the report. I can pull it up, screen share it, and we can go through and we can talk those things through. With the report itself, in today's age, and this is more of my take. There's not a lot of. You'll find people that don't want to take responsibility for what they're doing, right? So these inspectors have to. We have to plan for, the worst possible case of, someone that doesn't take any responsibility. So a lot of times the reports, the wording may seem really scary, like, oh my goodness gracious, I've got, flexible pipe under my drain or in my drain, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
So that's where those Zoom meetings really come in handy, is we can sit down and be like, hey man, I pointed this out, that you have a flexible drain pipe as part of your drain underneath the sink. It can get clogged, things like that. It's a pretty simple fix. Any handy DIY handyman can fix that, right? So when you're looking through those reports, don't get so wrapped around the wording, because a lot of times, North Carolina, they want us to do the DDID reporting,
What, and if you could break that down.
So you're describing what you're looking at, the deficiency, and then the implications of if you don't fix that, what can happen, and then give them a route to take to get it fixed. And which is a really great, simple format to follow. So good on them for coming up with that. It keeps everything on track.
Yeah.
So the reports, as a buyer, you've got to sit down and go through that and prioritize, and that's where, as an inspector, I always try to let my agents know, hey, don't feel like you have to answer these questions. Send them to me. I wrote the report, send them to me. Let me take that off your plate and help guide them a little bit. So as a buyer, you need to sit down and go through those and, prioritize, what's important to you, you know, because it varies.
What's going to be a deal breaker in your mind?
Yeah, you know, a perfect point of that is the house that my wife and I bought a little over a year ago. You know, it's an older house. You know, I looked through it and was like, yeah, it's an older house. It's got older problems, but yeah, it's good. You know, I can fix all of these things. You know, where someone else may be like, oh my goodness, man, I don't want anything to do with it.
Can I get my due diligence back?
Yeah. So,
no is the answer.
So
no is the answer.
Yeah. So I would say reach out to your inspector, you know, and certainly if it's me, you know, say, hey, I'd like to set up to go through page by page and talk about each individual, you know, item in the report.
That makes sense.
That would be my biggest advice, you know. And if you feel like you're an inconvenience or a burden on that person for asking that, then you may not have the right person.
Gotcha.
You know, so that's just kind of my 2 cents on it.
So Jerry, in conclusion, man, we appreciate your time. Thank you for being a part of the Flagrant Take on Real Estate podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final question was this, though, and former firefighter, everybody loves to tell stories. What's one of the wildest things you've seen during an inspection? Be it, I don't know even, I mean, you're former military, so what's, you know, weird or out of the normal for you, right? So what would you say has been something that kind of was a surprise, unbeknownst to you, while conducting an inspection?
Well, I mean, you could ask any home inspector, and they could sit and talk for hours of things that they see. You know, I mean, you see a lot of stuff. I mean, you see a lot of things, things that make you scratch your head. You know, I mean, you never want to judge anybody. You know, you don't know what walk they're on. You know, I mean, you see stuff and you're just like, wow. Probably we always get asked about crawl spaces.
Gotcha.
Right? So I'm okay with spiders. You know, none of that stuff. I mean, I grew up in the country. I mean, you see raccoons or possums. You know, typically if you see them, you know, when you go in a crawl space, you look for eyes. You don't see any. You know, you kind of press on. You know, no big deal. But my thing is snakes.
My thing too.
I am not a fan of snakes. We live on a farm, so you know, snakes are there. And actually, just this morning, I was walking around the pasture and saw a giant snake skin down by the old barn. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But my thing is snakes. So going into a crawl space, I have the mindset of the immature mindset of, you know, if I don't look at it, you know, it's not there. If I don't acknowledge it, it's not there.
I can't see you, you can't see me.
Yeah, you're just, you know, whatever. So
yeah.
I was out in, I forget where it was. It was out in the country. It was a manufactured home. The termite guy was there. I was going into the crawl space first. I had joked with him. It was like, hey, you know, you go in the crawl space and run all the snakes and everything out before I get in there. So I go into the crawl space, and typically, you know, you like it to be so that you can move around. You're not covering the same ground twice. At least that's the way that I like it. That way I can do my thorough look through as I'm going around, and I'm not backtracking and things like that. So I go into the crawl space. It's not too bad, you know. I can get down on my hands and knees, you know, in the rafters or the floor joists are at my back, so it's not too bad. Nice sandy floor. As I start going up the one side, I see a snake skin, and it's probably about 3 foot long. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, it's just one. You know, it's no big deal. I keep going, and I see another one. I'm like, okay, I'm not digging this anymore.
Longer than 3 feet now?
Yeah, well, we're still about the 3 foot range.
Okay, all right.
And it is summertime, so they're out, they're active.
Yeah.
And then I get up to closer to the end, and there's another skin, and it's pretty big. It's pretty big. And then I realized that as the way the ductwork is ran, I can't continue around. I've got to go back and go up the other side. So I come back out, and as I make the turn and start to go up the other side, I find another snake skin. I'm like, man, I'm really not digging this. You know, I'm starting to question everything. Like, why am I a home inspector? You know, I'm in these nasty places. And it wasn't too long before that, I was in an attic and found, I think it was like 10 snake skins up in the attic of a house. So I'm on high alert. I'm emotional. I'm emotional over snakes right now.
I would be highly emotional as well. It's all right. You're amongst friends.
Yeah. So as I'm continuing up through the crawl space, I'm about midways. I see what looks like a snake trail going through the sand, nice sandy bottom of this house. And all these things are just stacking up. I'm like, you know what? I don't feel good about it. I just don't feel good about it. It's like I'm turning around. I don't feel good about it. And we're talking like 40, 50 foot run that I've already went up one side. Now I've started up the other side. I'm about halfway. I'm just like, I just don't feel good about it. I'm turning around. So as I turn around,
oh no.
Yeah, there's where the pillar is. It just happened to catch my eye. There is a snake laying on the pillar, coiled up, laying on the pillar. I just make a run for it.
So somebody in the house just here just coming from the crawl space.
So this all ties into 20 years of the military and you're doing different exercises and things like that. And you're always like, why am I going to have to do this stupid low crawl? This is the dumbest thing. They're just doing this to make us suffer.
Yeah.
Brother, let me tell you something. I was never more happy to have perfected the low crawl. I came out of that. I came out of the crawl space faster than probably people can run.
Speed and agility on 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just wide open, straight out the crawl space.
So what do you say to the homeowner as you're leaving, or whoever was there?
So it was only me and the termite guy.
Okay.
It was us two.
Yeah.
So I shot out. He just so happened to be at the entrance to the crawl space, getting ready to come in.
Oh.
And I launched out. So termite guys, man, they're a different breed. Like they're pretty comfortable in crawl spaces. And he just kind of looked like, what'd you see in there?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a snake on the second pillar. There's a snake in there. He's like, okay, cool.
Hey,
no,
man,
not this kid.
Hey,
So
it's your nightmare, not mine, bro.
Yeah.
At that point in time. Well, man, Jerry, thank you for being on the episode. I feel like this won't be the only time you're here.
Hey, man,
so hopefully you're open to coming back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I
Awesome,
definitely
man.
appreciate it.
No, most definitely. So before we get out of there, man, where can the people find you? Where can they, come across your business and obviously give you a shout, as I'm sure they will.
So like I said, my wife, huge supporter. I mean, just the backbone, really. She has created our online presence. We're at www.nesscheckhomeinspection.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook. She runs all of that. The posts and things that you see are in my heart, but she brings them to life.
Yeah, man.
She runs all that stuff, and then my phone number is 910-973-5660. And then hers is 910-973-5674.
And we'll get all that put on here. So you guys know that we'll have him copied on everything, linked on everything. So like I said, this is a not just talented at what he does, but also he does it with the right heart and the right mindset. And for peace of mind in regards to customer care, customer service, you want to make sure that the professional that you hire isn't just knowledgeable, but they also have an element of empathy and sympathy to the clients and consumers, and you're extremely responsive. So I'll say, as a professional to professional, man, it's always a pleasure working with you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. So we'll be back out there in the field together here soon.
Yep.
Thank you again for being on here, and we'll jump on here, I'm sure, in the very near future again. But guys, again, this has been an episode of the Flagrant Take on Real Estate. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And if you find the information helpful, please share it. And for you guys whose questions were selected, congratulations to you. I'll be in touch very soon. You guys take care of each other and yourself. Peace.